All right, we are going to start by opening up Photoshop. You may need to do a search on the computer to see where it's located. Mine conveniently is in my dock. When the welcome screen opens, you're going to be creating a new workspace. So we're going to go to New, and we're actually going to be creating a new custom workspace. So we're going to come over here, rename it to your name. Make sure that your aspect ratio is in inches and you want your width to be 11 and your height to be 8.5. And we are going to make sure that it's oriented to landscape, and this is going to allow us to, in the conclusion, if we've got time, easily create the animated GIF or GIF. Then we're going to click Create. All right, so just a little quick orientation for those of you unfamiliar with Photoshop. You're going to be working with your layers of images in this part of your screen. This is going to be a helpful little workstation that will change depending on the tools you're using. And here are a bunch of the tools that you will find on your cheat sheet. And I hope my mouse is big enough for you guys here to be able to follow along. So your first step will be to import your watercolor background onto your workspace. So you can easily click and drag to do that. Once it is on your workspace here, we need to go ahead and change the image. So we need to transform it. So I think the easiest way is to do a Command T. And then with your Command T, that's going to allow you to then change size here and make any rotations. So I'm going to go ahead and rotate it. I can click Shift and that will help lock in that rotation to perfect 90-degree rotation. And now I want to go ahead and clip out my watercolor here. So to do that, I'm going to go over to my lasso tool. Oh, yes, I want to place the file. I'm using the polygonal lasso tool here. And again, I'm going to use that little shift trick. So I'm going to hold down Shift, click at the corner, click at the next corner, click at the corner. Holding Shift essentially just makes that selection a straight line. And then I got to come up here. There we go. So now to clip out that section of my image that I just created, I'm going to go to Control C and then hit Control V. And then if you notice over here in your layers window, I've just now created another layer with just the clipped out image. So I can actually hide my original image by clicking out that eye, but I actually don't need it anymore. So I'm just gonna highlight it by clicking on it and then hit the delete button. Okay, so now I'm gonna click on my layer here and you can see that polygonal lasso tool. I now want to go over here, select this orientation tool, and I want to be able to move this watercolor wash that I made into a corner. It doesn't really matter where, your choice. But now I want to change the size. I want to enlarge this to fill up the screen. So I need to transform it again. So I'm going to hit Command T and pull it up. Now I am not going to preserve the ratio. That means that I want it to change size to fit my workspace, which is 11 by 8.5, which was different than the size of my watercolor paper. So I'm going to go ahead and not hold Shift so I can change that aspect ratio here. And then once I'm done, I need to click Enter and that will preserve that change. So now I'm ready to go in and add the text box, but I want to create a separate layer for that text box so that if I want to change the text box, I'm not making any changes to this watercolor layer. So to add another layer on top, you come down here. If you hover over, sorry, my mouse is so big. You'll be able to see it says add new layer. So I'm just going to click right there, layer 2, and this is where I'm going to come over here to this little button. And it will allow me to choose my shape. Now, if you want to create your own shape, that's fine. You know, you got lots of different options here. The custom shape is pretty fun. Up in the taskbar up here, you've got some different shapes that you could choose from. So depending on what your message is, you could choose a shape that is relevant to your message. So you're going to click and drag, and then again, you're thinking about the message that you want to be communicating, and you may want to think about how the colors are going to relate either to the clothing that you're wearing, your background image, or if you want to create some high contrast like Barbara Kruger did in her imagery. You can also take that into consideration. So I am actually going to create some high contrasts. So I want to change the fill color here. So I'm going to go over to fill, and I can self-select out of these choices, or if you'd like to create a gradient, you're welcome to. I wouldn't necessarily recommend a pattern because you do want your text to be pretty visible, but again, that choice is up to you guys. All right, so I'm pretty pleased with that color choice. So I'm going to click enter here, and now I'm ready to go and add in my selfie. So I'm going to create another layer, and I am going to click and drag in to this layer, which is invisible, but it's there. It's kind of like creating a sandwich with invisible layers here. So I'm going to click and drag my selfie that I took. There we go. And now what I got going on, I'm going to hit enter to place it, and now I'm going to use the magnetic lasso feature. Now, one helpful thing that I learned was that it was helpful to change the zoom right here. It's about 150, and you want to make sure that you can see the entire area that you're going to be clipping out without needing to use your scroll bars here. So that's looking pretty good. And then the magnetic lasso, if you click up here to the polygonal lasso that I have left over from clipping out my watercolor, I'm going to click and hold, and you can see the magnetic lasso tool here. Okay, magnetic lasso is awesome, but it kind of has a mind of its own. So you can click and then drag around the image that you're clipping out, but if you get to an area where it kind of is wigging out, which you'll see in a minute, you can then click and create a point for the little lasso to kind of stay put. So just kind of follow along and see what's going on here. So I'm going to start my lasso right here, and I'm just kind of following along. You can see that it's creating those little points of contact along the edge. And okay, so the lasso, you can see it doesn't really want to follow along here. So I'm just going to make some clicks around the back of my necklace there. It really does not like all my wispy hair back there. So I'm going to add some little points here. And the double-edged sword of having that large mouse is that it makes it difficult to see the adaptations that the lasso is going through. But, you know, we do what we can, right? All right, so as I'm going around here, when you come to your face, you may accidentally give yourself a little nose job. So if your lasso cuts off your nose, just go ahead and click out and just start again. There are some tips and tricks for going and resetting your lasso lines, but I think honestly for our use today, it just is going to be easiest if you restart your lasso. All right. So here we go. I want to make sure I show off my muscles, you know, those teacher muscles you get from hauling boxes of clay and, you know, hordes of old paper, etc. So I thought ahead here and intentionally kept my fingers together when I took my selfie because I knew that I had a limited amount of time with which to clip out my image, and I did not want to spend my time going around my fingers. So I did that on purpose. All right, and then I'm going to go ahead and hit shift. That's going to help me create a sort of straight line as I go across here. All right, and just like I did to clip out my watercolor background, I'm going to go ahead and do Control C and then Control V. And over here in the layer window, you'll see that if I click out of my layer here, I've got my background. Now, there are a couple little wiggy things here that I'm not super fond of. So what we're going to do is I deleted the unneeded layer, and now what I'm going to find is my eraser tool, which for me is right here. And again, you've got a couple of different options here. I'm going to, oops, hello. Yes, okay, so I'm going to raster that shape. All right, so because my cursor is so massive, I need to go and change the size of my eraser tool. Here we go. Okay, so my eraser tool, I can change the size up here. I want it to be much, much smaller. The hardness is going to be pretty hard. And yeah, that's all you really need to worry about. Okay, so I'm going to click enter. And now going in here, it's going to allow me to, oops. So I'm going to click Control Z. If you noticed, I was trying to erase on this layer. So I need to click layer 2 now. And now it should let me go and erase that part of the wall that I missed when I was creating the little clip out. Okay, and then I also, all right, that's looking pretty good. So now I'm going to click back to my navigation arrow, and I'm going to go back to my view window to be 100% so I can see everything. And now this is where you are going to start moving around your selfie. Now the part of your image that's going to stay put is your shape. That's where you're going to be placing your text. What is going to be moving around is your selfie. So I'm going to go ahead and click my navigation arrow, and I can move it down here. And if I want to change the size, again, I'm transforming the image, so I'm going to go to Control T, and I can change the size. So if I want to preserve the aspect ratio, again, I don't want to make myself get real wide here or real tall and skinny, or maybe I do. If you want to preserve the original ratio, just make sure you're hitting shift as you're changing the size. So I'm liking that. That's pretty good. Okay, and let's see. Nice. Okay, so you have a couple options here depending on our time. If you want to put your text in, your message in here, you can. If you have enough time, you've kind of gotten the hang of how to clip around your image, you can actually import your text when we go to make the GIF itself online. I personally kind of like to do it here in Photoshop because I can have a little bit more control over where the text is. So my audience is my current school. So I teach at an elementary school, and we are in the process of redefining our school mission. And we want this to be a mission that our students can say. So we're thinking about, 4 and 5-year-olds. What's a mission statement that's going to be usable for them and is going to motivate them to be the best student that they can be? And we came up with a short little phrase, be bold, be brave, become. So I want to put that text inside this shape. So I'm going to come over here to the text tool. I am going to click in here, and I can type be bold, comma, hit enter, be brave, comma, and then become, exclamation point. Okay, so the text, I'm not really loving it, so I'm going to hit Control All. I want to change that text color to black, so I'm just going to click down here. Much better and much more legible. And I also need to change the placement, so I'm going to come up to my placement mover, drag it here. That's looking good, actually. I think I actually want to transform my shape itself, so I'm going to click on that shape icon here. And I need to go to Control T, hello, and see if, nope, hold it, go to my shape. Why are we not being cooperate, would ya? Okay, so I'm going to mess around a little bit here with my, there we go, mess around with my shape and see if I can make it get a little bit bigger. A little bit bigger. Nope, doesn't want to cooperate right now. Okay, well, we can work around that sizing issue in a minute. But let's go to how we are going to save this image. So you want to make sure that you're saving this as a JPEG. Photoshop, pardon me, creates a Photoshop document that is not going to be uploadable onto the makeagif.com. So what we're going to do is click Save As here, and it's got my name. Now I'm going to add it to the document name itself. I'm going to put left because my selfie is on the left-hand side here. I want to make sure that I save it to the desktop so I can find it again later. Then I'm going to I'm going to save as a copy. Click that button. That's important. Then I'm going to come down here to JPEG, and then I'm going to click Save, and you should get this prompt where it's going to ask you to choose your quality. We actually want a low quality here. Part of the beauty of a GIF is that it is low quality so that it can quickly switch between the images and be quickly viewable online. So you need a small file size. So I'm going to click OK. And now I have created, over here you can see my first image. So now I want to change the placement of my figure to sort of animate this GIF. So I'm going to go ahead over here to layer 2, which is my selfie. And I'm going to click on, select me. And now I'm going to go to Control T. I want to transform. So I want to invert or flip my selfie. So I'm actually going to come up here to the width here. And a really quick, easy way to do that is to do -100. Voila. And click enter. And now I'm ready to move me around here. And maybe I actually want to rotate it a smidge, and then I want to have it, yeah. That's looking awesome. Okay, so now I'm going to save this as a JPEG image. So again, do save as. Oh, yes, apply that transformation. Nesmith this time, I'm going to say right. Save as a copy. Go to JPEG, save, low quality, okay, and there it is. So now I'm going to save, as many versions of this with me moving around the workspace as I have time for. I'm going to go ahead and do one more just because I like changing and doing upside down stuff. So I'm going to go to Command T, and I want to rotate. That's another way that you could change your location, but you can also use the buttons up here if you want. So yeah, I'm digging that. Now I'm going to come up here to save as. Yes, apply that transformation. Thank you for the reminder. And then I'm going to put top. Save as a copy. Go to JPEG. Save. Low quality. Okay, fantastic. Here we go. Okay. So I'm actually, for now, finished with what I've created in Photoshop. I am not going to do what's called merge the layers because I do want to be able to manipulate my selfie a few more times and maybe change some things around. Maybe I want to go and choose a different background, or I want to be able to go back and actually change the size of that shape, or maybe I want to change the text. Who knows how I want to end up using this image to create that kind of embedded meaning. So I'm not going to merge down. This is going to create kind of a large file. That's okay. So you can go ahead now and actually quit Photoshop. It will prompt you to save your changes. Say yes. Again, I like to make sure that I know where things are being saved. So we'll go ahead and save to the desktop. And here's that PSD, that Photoshop documents, which is usable in Photoshop, but really nothing else. Hence why we had to change to a JPEG. All right, so I'm going to click OK or save. And now, fantastic. So you can navigate to the web browser, and from there you can either click on the link to makeagif.com from my website, or you can navigate there on your own, whatever is easiest for you. makeagift.com. All right, so this is brilliant. You do not need to log in to actually create your gift. You can just go pictures to GIF here. And this is why Macs are awesome. I'm going to click Shift, or I can click and drag all of my JPEGs, drag them into the dialog box here. And now I can play with placement. Fantastic. And I'm gonna hit continue. So now it's gonna play a little preview for you. I think that's moving a little bit fast, so I'm gonna slow it down just a smidge. Make sure you give it an awesome title. Shout it out, Nesmith, exclamation point. Fantastic. Then you go to create your GIF, and because it is free, it's gonna take a little while, but I can wait for things that are free. Once the image itself has processed, you'll have the option to download the file, which is fun. You can save it to the computer. You can also source the link itself. So I'm going to go ahead and source the link, and I'm going to put this file on the website. So I will use the direct link to it. I can also, you can email me that direct link, but to create the file, or pardon me, to download the file, you just click download, and there we go.